7. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Whitmarsh and Leslie Dalzell coming to you from HR Strategies Consulting, welcoming you to the monthly webinar series where we're going to talk about leveraging change management to positively impact successful software adoption. So today we've got a jam-packed full of agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about HR Strategies Consulting. We're going to see key elements of change management, leveraging change management as a resource to ensure successful software adoption. Then we're going to talk about some next steps, critical questions to ask yourselves, and give you an opportunity to ask questions about this presentation. So Leslie, just checking in with you. Are you seeing the screen share okay?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, audio sounds clear?
Yeah, so far.
Check. Very good.
Check and check.
I'm going to introduce my colleague, Leslie Dalzell, who's our senior HR consultant. She is PROSI certified, which means, well, Leslie, maybe I'll get you to explain that for yourself, if that's okay.
Basically, what it means is I am PROSI certified. So PROSI is a change management methodology. That's probably one of the most prominent ones that you would hear about. And it allows me to work with people like yourselves in project management to help marry together project management objectives as well as change management, which is the people side, which we will get into a little bit later.
Awesome. Thanks, Leslie. And myself, I'm Dan Whitmarsh. I'm a senior solutions engineer with HR Strategies Consulting. I've been in the human capital space for, quite some time now. For those who have followed the series, you've seen a variety of talk tracks that we've done around all things talent management. What we're going to do today is just introduce you to a little bit about HR Strategies Consulting. We have been in the HR consulting business for just over 20 years with a lot of experience in helping people refine and define their human capital management practices. And then more recently, in the last 8 years, we've become a certified gold or SAP SuccessFactors partner, and we represent that along with a variety of other systems and technologies to help marry the combination of technology practices to talent management practices. So underpinning things with a lasting backbone that helps to deliver a sustainable change over time. So we bring both of those elements to the table. Ironically, Leslie comes from the human capital management practice side of the business. Myself, I rest more on the technology practice side of the business. So I think we should be fairly well equipped to answer all questions and concerns that might crop up today. What we covered in the previous months, for those who aren't familiar with this series, is a lot of activity. We call this the employee value prop or the employee life cycle journey. And we really started way back in January, February, talking about hiring, and March with onboarding. Later on, we went to learning and performance management. More recently, we've covered pay and total compensation benefits. And that kind of covers the entire employee life cycle, but it doesn't really address the yellow inner circle here, which is really about empowering people. And the next few WebExes we're going to do in this series are based on that empowering experience. And what we're going to look at today is change management and HXM. So instead of human capital management, we call it human experience management with our SAP platforms, technologies, and processes, because it's a very different model of bringing a top quality experience to people. And how human capital management or human experience management and change management interact is really the essential ingredient in today's WebEx. So jumping into this, whoops, sorry, I got that slide up again. What we're going to do today, here's a deeper dive into the agenda. We've got the importance of human experience management. We're going to define change management. Leslie's going to take the lead here and walk us through this, why it's important, how organizations go through change. She's going to underpin the elements of change management, talk about the ADKAR model and the PROSI 3-phase model. And then we have a really powerful PCT model we're going to discuss. Then we're going to talk about how change management and project management actually come together to help understand the connection points and further enhance the possible success of any software implementations you're going to be up against. Bullet number 5, we have a nice little tool, as we normally do for those who follow this series, to help you assess your project success. And then we're going to talk about the impact of change management on other talent management practices. So with no further ado, let's jump in. Are you ready, Leslie?
No.
Okay, the good
But
news is
sure.
I'll start. The importance of human experience management to change management. Why is this such a key consideration on new software projects? Because there are so many software projects that fail. When we look at numbers, we talk about the human experience being the essential ingredient that drives highly engaged people. So when they come to work, are they working with state-of-the-art tools, technology, and processes? We have to do that for them. We have to equip them with these things. And if we do, we get higher productive employees. So we know that having a good experience for an employee can produce 17% higher productivity per employee. We also know that if you turn your employees into ambassadors and give them the right tools, they embrace the work and they face that value and put that mission forward to their clients, you can generate 3 times more revenue per employee. And finally, if you look at the human experience and how they tackle and manage their work, and you give them top quality tools and experiences, we can see as much as 40% reduction in turnover compared to the organizations. Because today, especially during this COVID time, people are working from home, so they're not interacting face-to-face with people as much as they used to. They're more than likely relying on some web-based software or application to equip them to take on the daily tasks of work that they have in front of them. So these are really important factors to consider. So when we think about, some recent research from Gallup, it's telling us that 84% of leaders expect or point to employee experience as a top priority, but sadly only 9% are ready to address the issue. So today we're going to talk about things you can do that are going to move that needle on that 9% and get your company active. Okay. So the key elements of human experience management are really to listen, understand, and act. And this actually aligns up very well with what we're going to see Leslie talk about shortly on the human experience management. We're talking about X data, which is the experience of the employees, and we're combining that with O data, which is the operational data that's happening inside your organization. The people, the work, the tenure, the processes, the practices, the policies they have to adhere to and drive through. It's about their experience with those O data and how X and O come together, and then how we listen, understand, and act on that data. And really what that does is it changes it from a human capital management process to a human experience management process. So, let's think about this in a couple key different ways. Is that if we actually look at human experience management, we're talking about experience first approach, the whole me at work, not just I come here and I do these transactions and I leave. It's about bringing the entire person to the organization and embracing all that they can bring and all that they can contribute. It's an open platform. It allows for compliance and it aligns with strategic capabilities. So we're actually delivering a world-class showcase of experience that really helps us manage and get employees to the pinnacle of where they need to do their work and what needs to be done top notch. So Leslie, I'm going to check the chat here. I haven't seen anything, but we should do a quick housekeeping item. While I'm talking, Leslie's going to kind of man the chat line for us. So if you have questions or comments, you can key them into the chat or put them in the Q&A sections on the Zoom panel. And when Leslie's talking, I'm going to do my best to manage that for her. So Leslie, I think do you want to take over and run the deck yourself, or do you want to me to just keep advancing?
If I could take it over, that would be great.
Yep. So you do have the presenter capabilities. You should be able to pull that away from me just by hitting the share on the bottom of the screen.
Okie dokie. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Okay, give me 1 second here.
You bet.
Okay. And so I just pull up where we left off, right?
Yeah, so it's on the word cloud for change management.
Okie dokie. Sorry, this is my first
That's
time
okay.
doing this.
Yeah, no worries.
Let me show all windows. Okay. Okay, let me just pull it up. And we'll be good to go.
So for a little bit of background, for those who are wondering why the delay here, I misled Leslie. I thought I'd given her a different time for this presentation. So I panicked with 10 minutes before, realizing I'd say 1 p.m., not 2 p.m. Eastern. So we kind of caught her off guard.
Just a little bit, but that's okay. So I'm just, okay, so I think this is where we landed off. And I'm just trying to find where the page is there. I think it's here. All right. Is that
Okay,
right?
there you go. Yep, I see your deck, but it's in full mode.
Oh.
Now I see I think you're sharing the wrong screen. You've got the presenter's view, so switch the mode.
Okie dokie. Oh, sorry.
Yep, I think you're sharing monitor 1 instead of monitor 2, perhaps, right?
I think it's over monitor 2. There we go. Okay, now we're up and ready. Whew, okay.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody. My apologies on that. Okay, so let's get right into change management. For example, this was a change for me as of today. So how do we adapt to that? That's probably actually a really good intro. So what is change management? There are many, many different definitions of what change management is. But like we said before, here at HRSC, we actually use the PROCE change management methodology. Some of you may be familiar with it, some of you may not, but it is sort of the #1 methodology that is used to help organizations sustain a change, whatever that may be. So what does PROCE define change management as? So the PROCE definition is the process, tools, techniques, and to manage the people side of change to achieve the required business results. So this is the difference between project management and change management. Change management is looking at the people side. Okay, sorry. So why is this important? So organizations must continually change and evolve to succeed. You know, we're seeing that specifically with COVID, as Dan had said, most people working from home, working on different platforms. You can tell I'm not 100% comfortable with Zoom because I work mostly on Teams. But, you have to change and evolve. Unfortunately, though, a lot of companies actually don't do this, and they rely, my bad. They actually rely mostly on the technical aspect, and they actually don't focus on the people aspect. So second point is, like I said, is for the people side. So if you're not focused on the people side of things, and you're only focused on the technical side of things, there's no connection there. Okay, and the success for any organization does depend on encouraging individuals, and this is important, to embrace, adopt, and utilize a change. Okay. So why apply change management? So why are we going to do that? Well, let's talk about what happens when you don't do that. So what are the consequences? So using the embrace, utilize, and adopt, which I just talked about, let's see what those things are. So lower productivity, more people taking 6 days and not showing up, divides created between an us and them, turnover rates, the change being totally scrapped because no one's using it. And I think we've all been there. We've had big systems rolled out and it wasn't rolled out correctly. And then everyone just reverts back to their Excel spreadsheets. And adopting, of course, adopting is huge. This is one of the biggest issues with doing any kind of change, is getting people to adopt the new system. And if you don't, there becomes disinterest. There's the argument about change. There is a passive resistance. There is active resistance. And those are the things that really can happen. And probably we've all seen that when change management doesn't apply. So what are the fundamental reasons for applying change management? So there's 4. So 1, you want to increase your probability of project success. You want to manage employee resistance to change. You want to capture people dependence ROE or ROIs. And you want to build that change competency within an organization. So how do companies go through change? I always like this little graphic with the elephant going into a leopard or a tiger on the other end, because it's very true. We want to be slow and now we want to go fast. That's mine. So there are 3 states of change for organizations. And most of you may be familiar with this, but I'll go through it. So what are they? So you have your current state. So what's the current state? The current state is how things are done today. Then you have your transition state. So you've decided you're going to implement a new program, a new process, a new IT solution. So now you have to think about how are you going to move from the current state to the future state. So this is the transition. And of course, the future state. And this is how will things be done tomorrow? Now, most organizations, or really in life in general, we think about the present. And then we think about where we want to be. What's missing is how do we get there? And so an example of that, would be is you have in your organization ad hoc processes, and you want to get to documented and managed processes. You have an old operating model, you want to get to a new one. You have generalists in a call center. You want to have specialists in a call center. You have no web interface for suppliers. Now you want a supplier website integrated into the supply chain. You've got 2 different companies, you're merging your organizations. So these are just some examples of some of the activities that happen. We're like, this is where we are, this is where we want to be, but how do we get there? So in reality, keep moving. There you go. So each impact employee has his or her own current state. So when we're looking at the transition part of going from current to future, every individual needs to go through that. So the organization's future state is actually a collection of many individual future states. So we went through this already, sorry. So this is how things are done, how to move from the current to the future, and how things are done. So for the individual, this is what it looks like. How I do my job today, how do I move from the current state to the future state, and how will I do my job after the change is implemented? Okay. All right. So the organization, as I said, is a collection of many individual states. So like, here's an example. These are all different people here. We want to get to our future state, and we want to get to, as an example, the documented management processes, the new operating model, specialists in the call center, the supply website integrated into supply chain, and the merge organization. So change management is what drives project success by supporting the individuals through these transitions required by the organization's projects and initiatives. So in order to be successful, everyone has to go through that transition, and everyone will do it at a different speed. So let's talk about that. So we've talked about the 2 separate pieces. We've got individual versus an organizational perspective. So let's understand that a little bit more. So let's take a look at 2 different perspectives. We have the individual versus the organizational. So what is this? So effective change management does require both of these components. Okay, it's the individual and the organizational perspective. Managing change without both of these perspectives is actually very ineffective. And without an organizational change management process, changes become unmanageable when they impact dozens or even thousands of employees. So let's talk about the individual perspective model. So I always like this saying here, and this actually comes from Proces, is you cannot manage change at an organizational level until you know how to manage change with a single individual. And I'm going to be drilling this home pretty much on every slide because this is actually pretty important. So as you said, individual change management is understanding how the one person makes change successful. And the framework for this is actually called ADKAR. So some of you may be familiar with NOT, but I'm going to go through what ADKAR means. And again, this is another Proces model for individual change. So ADKAR, so it is the 5 building blocks for successful change. So you have awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. Sorry, my apologies. So managers and project teams use ADKAR for the following things. They guide organizational change management plans. They diagnose gaps and root causes for resistance. They develop corrective actions. And those are sort of just the highlights and the top levels of what managers and project teams can use ADKAR for. So the next slide I'm going to show you is sort of an example of a table of how ADKAR can be interpreted. So you have awareness. So awareness, and the definition is of the need to change. And if you do that correctly, what you're going to hear is, I understand why, because the team or the individual understands why the change. Without it, and I know I've been through this as well, employees ask the same questions over and over and over, and they hoard information and resources. With desire, you know, it's to participate and support the change. That is desire. And you want to hear, I have decided to, like, I have decided to support this change. Without it, you have lower productivity, increased turnover, and delays in implementation. Knowledge is on how to change. And you want to hear, I know how to. So someone knows how to do it. Oh, sorry, I have a dog in the background. Lower utilization or incorrect uses of new systems sustained reduction in productivity. And of course, ability to implement required skills and behaviors. Sorry, everybody. What you want to hear is, I am able to. Employees worry, of course, whether or not they will be successful in their future. And the greater impact is on customers and partners. And then reinforcement. This is actually pretty big as well, is to sustain the change. You know, I will continue to is what you want to hear. If this doesn't happen, as we talked about before, so the consequences of not implementing change management is people revert back to their old ways. So you put this, you know, $1,000 system in, and yet people still go back to the Excel spreadsheets. Okay, oops, sorry, I went back. Okay, so let's talk about the organizational perspective model. So the organizational change model provides the tools that project teams and managers have to support the people side of change. Okay. The first phase is called, my bad. The model provides activity oriented and it lays out the actions, and the model is called the Proces 3-phase process. I was getting ahead of myself. So the first phase is called preparing for change. Okay. So preparing for change. So there's 3 elements that you need to consider when you're preparing for the change. You want to define your change management strategy, define your change management team, and develop your sponsorship model. The main activities that are involved with this are conducting readiness assessments, performing risk analysis, anticipate risk areas, design special tactics, develop overall strategy, architect team structure, and prepare your team, and assess your sponsorship. Oh, and obviously why is because you want to develop a customized and scalable approach with necessary sponsorship and team structure. The second phase is called managing your change. So managing your change composes of developing your change management plans and take action and implement your plans. So this is a lot of the heavy lifting that you'll see within the change management. Obviously, there's heavy lifting at the beginning to set your foundation, and this is let's put everything together. So you're putting together your communication plan, your sponsorship plan, your coaching plan, your training plan, and your resistance management plan. And you want to integrate this into the project plan and execute plans. So why do you do this? This is to create and implement plans that move the organization and individuals through the change. And the last phase, of course, is reinforcing change. The reinforcing change is you need to collect and analyze feedback, diagnose gaps and manage the resistance, and implement corrective actions and celebrate the successes. That's the one thing we always forget to do is celebrate successes. So the main activities, you want to, again, proactively get the feedback, listen to the employees, audit your compliance with the new way of doing things, identify the gaps and areas of resistance, implement a correction action, celebrate the successes, very important, and move to new business as usual, just not business as usual. And why do we do this? We do this to ensure that the change is adopted and sustained. So now that we have an overall view of the individual and the organizational perspective, we're going to go to the next step and seeing how it fits together. So the next step is, or the next model we're going to look at is called the PCT model. So this, again, is PROCE. So this is called the PROCE Change Triangle Model. And to understand how the PCT model works at a basic level, it helps to imagine it being a three-legged stool. So each stool represents a change effort. So we've got leadership, sponsorship, project management, and change management. As I have right up here, leadership, project management, and change management. So leadership provides the guidance, project management gives the structure to the technical side, and of course, as we've been talking, change management supports the people side. Okay, and this is what the lovely triangle looks like here. So you have leadership at the top, you got project management to one side, change management to the other, and inside, this is the common goal. This is what everyone is trying to achieve to make sure that change stays and is adopted. And so you got projects meets objectives, it finishes on time and on budget, and the ROI is realized. Okay. So all three elements are required for the project to be implemented and benefits to be fully realized, as we've talked about. Projects are at risk, though, if any of these elements are missing. So how are they connected? So we're going to just briefly review the leadership project management connection, the leadership change management connection, and then we're going to go a little bit more further into detail on this project management / change management connection. So here is the connection. You see everything kind of flows together, which is really nice.
Love the flow.
I do like the flow. It's really nice. So in the leadership project management connection, the focus really is on leadership decisions. You want to look at your timing, your scope, and your resources. And the outcome of that is balancing cost, time, scope of dimensions of the project. Between change management and leadership, you're looking for all those leadership actions. So making sure they're visible, that they're talking about the change, that they're supporting it, they're building coalitions, so they're getting the support that they need from other people, and they're communicating It's communicating with everybody about the change and why the change is important and why it's going to help everyone move forward. And then we have the project management and change management approach. And of course, this is integrating the people, processes, and tools. Okay, so let's take a deeper dive on the PM, and the CM piece. Okay. So integrating change management and project management activities. So project management and change management activities are most effective when they are integrated together. So project management, I'm sorry, I did that. Unfortunately, really, it doesn't always happen. And change management is considered an add-on after implementation. And that's not always the best place to do it, because at that point, there has been disengagement along the way. The best place is to do it in conjunction with each other. So successful change, as I said, requires both the technical and the people sides. So let's take a look at that. So on the technical side, you have you're designing, you're developing, and you're delivering. On the people side, you're embracing, adopting, and use. Again, which we talked about at the beginning of this presentation. In the middle, we have the state that the organization is going through. So you have your current state, your transition state, and your future state. And so what does this all equal when it comes together? It comes to successful outcomes, and that's what we want. So when you compare change management and project management, let's just do a little bit more of a deeper dive on that. So again, there's the technical side of moving from the current state to the future state. That's project management. And here are the processes that are involved, as well as the tools as well. So you have your initiation, planning, design, implementation, your closure, and tools that are involved on the project management side. Of course, your scope of work, your charter, your business case, your structure, your budget, your resources, your scheduling, and your tracking. So for change management, the focus, of course, is the people side, moving from the current state to the future state. And the process here is organizationally, and this is why we talked about the organizational versus the individual, is you're preparing for change, you're managing the change, you're reinforcing the change. Those are the PROCE 3 phases. And then you're also using ADKAR for the individual change. And of course, the tools are, so you have the individual change model, there's readiness assessments that you can do, communication plans, sponsorship roadmaps, coaching, resistance plan, management, training, and reinforcement. The one thing I really like about this and about these tools actually is there is a lot of different assessments that you can do throughout the life cycle of a project to evaluate where you are and to actually identify those gaps. So as we've been talking about, we want to integrate CM into the PM process, but we want to have it at the right point. So again, we've talked about what the elements are for project management: initiation, planning, design, implementation, and closure. And then on the change management side, we have the assessing, the strategization, planning, executing, and sustaining. So ideally, this is how it should fit together. So once the project is identified and the initiation is starting, then change management would come in right away and start doing some assessments. See, is the organization ready? Do we have the right sponsorship? All of that to make sure that it gets off on the right foot. So ways to work together. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some team structures and just give you a little bit of an overview of what some possible ways that change management integrates into the project. So in this example, you have individuals from the project team that are actually just assigned to do change management, but they're clearly, that is their job. They're doing change management within the project management team. You can have an external change management team dedicated to the project. You can have a combination of someone inside doing change management as well as having the consultation outside. You can have where all the project team and the change management team are the same team and everybody's working on it together. You could have, again, that change management within the project team, but then you can outsource some of these other teams. So whether it's training or communications, all that kind of fun stuff. So these are just a couple of examples of how change management and project management can fit together. So let's talk about some advantages of integrating the PM and TM teams. So you have, you're collaborating as a team, there's effective communication, there's stakeholder integration with the project, there's effective project planning, and there's risk mitigation. So the advantages of CM outside, but supporting project management, what are some of those? So you got objectivity, autonomy and independence, direct access to the leadership, flexibility, and enabled specialization, and the ability to provide support. So some takeaways. So change management, as we've talked about, focuses on the people side of an organizational change. It involves both an individual and organizational perspective. It requires actions involved by leaders and managers throughout the organization. And both project management and change management have tools to support the project realization, to support the project realization and to achieve adoption, which is huge. So that is it for me. Does anyone have any questions?
Hey, Leslie, Dan here. Thanks for that. That was an awesome overview and outlook. I particularly jazzed at the way PM and CM come together and we consider both facets of this. I've been monitoring the queue for questions and answers and it's been pretty quiet. So don't be shy to those participants on the line if they want to pipe in and add comments. So what I'm going to do, if that's okay, Leslie, I'm going to take back the screen share.
Yep,
I'm going to come up to where we left off here. And I'm going to transition back to a slide we saw at the outset of the presentation. Do you remember we talked about the high percentage of people that were wanting this to be a priority, but very few of them were equipped to act? Well, we're going to give you a tool that you can use in your toolbox, and it really is a condensed version of a lot of the very heavy, detailed information that we saw in the PROSI catalogs. And if you don't have access to PROSI, which is a licensed content, this is going to be very helpful to you. It's called the HRSC, that's the Human Resources Strategies Consulting Project Change Readiness Audit. It's an Excel-based doc, and it's used as a simple tool to help you understand the chances of success in your program launch, okay? So it's incorporating some of the 3 key elements from that PCT model. So it really, let's actually jump into it here for a second. I should have it up on the screen now. Leslie, are we seeing that okay?
Yep, I see it.
Okay, awesome. So it's a simple Excel document. It's a workbook and there's 3 tabs and we've connected them with the little arrow here. So it gives you a kind of introduction. It should take no more than 15 minutes to do this. And what you just do is when you're ready to get started, click the arrow and there are 15 questions. You can see the green bank up here are 5 questions about your project leadership. There are 5 questions around the project management and 5 questions on change management. So they're all numbered. You know, for instance, question number 1, our project has an executive sponsor with the appropriate span of control over the project and their participants. Well, yeah, I think we're pretty good on that. So it's a gut check through all of these items. The executive sponsor has credibility and capability to resolve any issues pertaining to project scope and resources. They sure do. The executive sponsor has clearly articulated the need for change. Well, maybe not so well here. The executive sponsor clearly believes in the change and will be active throughout the project, not just kicking it off and telling us it's good, but living it with us and coming through to the other end of the project with a strong celebration of success. And I might say, yeah, that's really quite just okay at this point, right? So long and short of this, as you walk through this exercise, there's the opportunity to grade your leadership along these 5 questions. The executive sponsor has aligned the change to corporate objectives. Yeah, I'm going to say that's good. Then the next bank of questions, the golden ones here, are around the project questions itself. So a lot of this aligns with what Leslie had talked about of the success of the projects and how they come together. So this is, as a project perspective, how are we? Oh, that's really good. That's very good. This is good. And I'm not going to read all these questions. They're good for you to get hold of and read by yourself. The last 5 questions in the gray area here are pertaining to the change management. Has a change management strategy been defined and put in a plan put in place? And, we might say, yeah, it's good. It's very good here. It's really good here. And it's very good here. And when you're done, you click to the next tab and it gives you a grade on how you're doing with the project management, and the change management. So the project leadership in this case is not doing too well. We have a D+, 17 out of 25 possible points. So, the risk of this project overall is at a B level or B grade. We'd like to see everything into an A grade, but you can drill back to these 3 pillars, or as Leslie called them, the three-legged stool. And you could say, hey, you know what, we've got a D+ for leadership. We need to spend some more time with our leaderships and get them fully engaged, fully on board, and fully in control of the change management, the scope of the project, and the variables pertaining to the project. So this is a tool that you just don't use once. You can actually use this on and on again. Just pull it off the shelf, pass it to a colleague and ask them for their opinion, and just look at the results and think about, where are we as an organization? And if we're not in a solid B position to A position, the chances of success of our project launch without change management or without leadership sponsorship are really being put at risk. I see a couple questions in here. Let me just drill in. Yes, definitely the slides and the docs will be sent to all participants after. We have our colleagues on our help desk our service desk, who will be following up with everybody, making sure they have all the information. So this is that tool. Again, it's just a quick cover, assess 15 questions, view your results, okay? So it's really quite simple, and then just save the document over again. And you can always come back in and rethink this as a team and reevaluate, if we were to move the project side at the different levels. Obviously this changes in real time, and we're now reflecting an F for the change management aspect of a given project, which of course impacts our overall grade here. Okay, so that is what we have for you as a takeaway, one of them, including the deck that's coming up. Part of the equation, and for those who have been journeying on this monthly webcast series with us, you've seen that we always talk what we call the ripple effect of change management, and how these implications of whatever topic du jour we're on cover or impact the rest of the modules. So if we look at change management affects recruiting in a variety of different ways. First and foremost, CM, change management, it could be the very reason you are recruiting. Hey, we've done a workforce planning audit and we just don't have the skills, capability, talent inside of our organization, and we're not about to learn that because it's probably not part of our culture. So we need to go out and bring somebody in new who can help us facilitate change. And likewise, adaptability and openness to change should be elements of every interview or a competency assessment that you might do during that recruitment process, because they not only need to align to your current state, you want them to align to the future state of your organization. Third, there needs to be a control bias in recruitment. You just don't want to say recruiters, go get more of those same people. If we're trying to build a company or a culture of change, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes, you're going to need to hire not more of the same, but people who don't have or bring new elements to the table. And change management is definitely on the leading edge of what you should be looking for. Now, when we think about onboarding, onboarding shifts from, hey, this is how it's done here, to maybe this is, or how would you like it to be? And that's not just like pandering to, a new employee. It's really about being embracing of change and adopting agile business practices, because that's the future success of most organizations. You need to leverage newness. So people show up on their first 30, 60, 90 days of work, and they get into meetings and they have a whole host of experiences from other organizations. And some organizations don't want to embrace that change. You should be embracing that change. Let them speak about their previous experiences and start to facilitate, hey, yeah, if we did that change, that would be really good. So, that adds excitement and engagement along the way. From a learning and development perspective, you need to make sure there is content available to help your participants, your company employees focus on embracing change. There is no shortage of material out there. You can create it yourself. You can link to the internet. You can look at content providers like Open Sesame, good partners of ours. They have libraries full of this stuff that you can plug and play into whatever learning management system you have, okay? Secondly, from a development perspective, goals focused around change mandates should be part of everybody's development plan. How do I handle change? What's my, sometimes it's just a topic called change management. And in many cases, it can be a core competency that is assigned to everybody that gets tracked through their learning and development efforts. So, sometimes companies hang their hat on 3, 5, or 7 type of core competencies. Embracing change should be one of those if you're looking to build a company that is ripe and ready to do, have a culture of change. From a performance management perspective, pretty much the same thing as learning and development, but let's make goals around change a competency and put it in the formal cycle and have it evaluated and have discussions on it. In fact, let's put it into our weekly one-on-one as an item that needs to be addressed all the time. How are we doing with change? How is change affecting us? What are our thoughts about future change? And all those items are very important to have on the table. Have defined levels of what change looks like. So this is our vision of the 5, say you've got the performance rating scale of 5 variables. So put out there what it looks like to be very good at it, okay at it, not so good at it, and really bad at it. Define that so that people understand that this is what it looks like. And yeah, that is me. It's not just somebody's opinion. That is truly me. And that's what I'm doing, because that'll help them take their arms off hanging on that stump post and clinging to it, and actually being able to liberate themselves and let go and start to embrace change. Likewise, leveraging 360 surveys that help understand and tap into change is an index on that 360 assessment is a really valuable tool. So now you're not just asking managers, you're actually asking peers, you're actually asking clients, you're asking stakeholders on different projects. Everything can be incorporated into 360, and we can assess the individual's ability to adopt with change. And from a workforce planning perspective, I think we already talked about this a little bit. When you're modeling new organizational initiatives or plans, you need to allow for ability to change. And if you don't have those skill sets inside your organization, it's time to make a plan to go out and get them, which kind of comes back all the way to recruiting. So, building change into the department level, team level, and individual level, as Leslie pointed out, is a really important aspect. It's not just about individuals, it's not just about departments, it's about the interplay between those and how they come together. And then you need to recognize that some teams or departments are going to be more equipped at this or more agile than others. But if we go after the holy grail, which is always the engagement and retention that everybody's chasing, you have to do 3 things: agility, stakeholder versus target, and alignment. So agility really says, hey, make sure that culture embraces change. You're agile, because if you do this, you've got a better chance of project success. Leslie clearly outlined that for us. Second one, consider the individuals as stakeholders instead of targets. It's not the top telling the middle what to do to the bottom level of an organization. It is a group of people saying, hey guys, let's do something and make it better. And we need your input on what you think it is that's going to be better, so that they actually feel empowered by this. They feel they're part of the process, and they really are not just feeling it, they are part of the process. They're going to help design and deliver the solution. And believe me, having done thousands of implementations in my time, there are no shortage. I mean, if you do this, it reduces resistance along the way, and it increases engagement, pride, and retention as an end result. The last bullet here is around alignment. We're all on the same page and we're moving forward together. It makes for a great company culture, brings great organizational success. In fact, Harvard Business Review reports only 5% of employees understand their company's strategies, which is just shocking to think that 95% of people out there that you're working with on change management initiatives have no idea what the end goal is. As a precautionary tale, watch out for change saturation. I didn't even know what that was until Leslie and I started collaborating on this WebEx. And I learned that you can just be a culture of change that is always in change, and eventually it just loses its impetus and impact. So don't overdo the change. It's important to have measured change, not continuous change, okay? So, oh, and there is the URL for that. That is the end of our talk track. I wanted to summarize in a key way here. We've looked at the suite and how all of this stuff comes together, and we talked about human experience management vis-a-vis change management and how we're starting to empower employees along their life cycle and their journey with you. We're here to help. If you have any questions or comments, we welcome them. I've been seeing that Leslie's been monitoring the chat, so that's good. And I think the questions are up to date on the chat as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so call to action is pretty simple. We are doing what will happen as a result of this is that the deck and the recording link will be shared out to all participants. Okay, somebody will follow up with you to ensure that you get it. You will be given a copy of the Project Change Readiness Audit. If you need any help with it, reach out to myself and/or Leslie, and we can book a short call with you and walk you through it and help you understand what it's pointing to and how it's going to help change your project scoping. You can always come to HR Strategies Consulting and learn more about us as a business, or call us and ask us what we are capable of doing if you have particular challenges. And we have another virtual event coming up in October. Now, this is topic and exact title to be confirmed. We'll put that out shortly, or maybe it will be confirmed by end of day today, and we'll put it updated into the link. But we're planning for October 27th at 1 p.m. to talk about employee engagement and survey planning. So we have some great survey tools we want to showcase and what that means for employee engagement all along. Okay, so that, my friends, is the end of our event. Leslie, I want to thank you so much for being an excellent co-host, and sorry for surprising you with a 1 hour advanced time change on this.
No problem. I should apologize for the crazy hair going on. So sorry, everybody.
And well,
and the dog barking in the background.
Hey, having a dog bark in the background is almost de facto, and it has to be part of every event these days, doesn't it? So
very true.
Very good. So thanks again for your participation to all the participants. And Leslie, again, I really appreciate all the hard work you're putting into this content. It was beautifully presented and articulated, and I hope our audience feels the same.
Okay, thanks, Dan. You're awesome.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you all. If there's no further questions, let me just go back up and take a look here. I think we will sojourn for the day and give everybody back a few minutes. Thank you all.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye-bye.